concert tours worldwide, with 11 studio albums that span 4 decades, the Titans of Thrash remain the standard by which all other metal is measured. We begin with a 1984 classic from their second album, For Whom the Bell Tolls, followed by the 1992 tour anthem, Wherever I May Roam. And then, let's turn down the house and light up the stage for the Auburn University Marching Band and their show, Metallica.
The game is over, and it's time to react to it. Auburn versus Vanderbilt in the 2025 season. 38-45, the Auburn Tigers lose in Nashville overtime. It's like 3 overtime games this season already. We're going to get into it here. Reaction show, the score, the stats, the storylines, all of that's going to be coming up here right now. War Eagle, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we get together, we sit down, and we talk about the Auburn experience, all about Auburn sports, Auburn culture, Auburn family stuff. An easier way to say it, though, is if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. So thank you so much for joining us in what we're going to be doing today, this evening, I should say. Live reaction of Auburn versus Vanderbilt. The Auburn Tigers fall in overtime 45-38 to the Vanderbilt Commodores in a hard-fought, very impressive game on some aspects, others a little bit disappointing. But after a lot of turmoil and struggles during the season, certainly there are a lot of discussions to be had related to all of that. But I think the Auburn Tigers, the Auburn football team, put together a game that was at least fun and entertaining and gave some positive things on the side of the offensive side of the ball in this game. So we're going to talk about all those things. We'd love for you to come into the chat and smash the like button, the share button. If you can do that for us, it's a huge help to us. It's not for you celebrating the win or the loss or anything like that, but you can help us out by hitting that like or that share button wherever you are watching. We'd also love for you to announce your presence. Let us know that you're here, War Eagle, where you're watching from, all that kind of stuff, and we'll be taking some of your commentary as it's appropriate throughout the show today. So the normal agenda for most of you that have been here, you'll know this, but for those that may be stopping by for the first time, if you're a first timer here, make sure that you're hitting that subscribe button. We're going to go through the score, obviously, which we've already covered a little bit, the stats in the individual statuses of those and the team stats of all of that, and then some storylines amongst all of those. So that's going to be our agenda tonight. Let me acknowledge I'm not in my normal location. I'm not using a regular microphone either, so the quality on both sides of visual and audio may be a little bit lower tonight. Thank you for your understanding and patience on that. We're just at a different person's house, not in the actual studio this evening. Everything's great, just spending some family time this evening. All right, enough about me. Just wanted to take care of that housekeeping to start off the show tonight. Listen, I know in losses, it's not something that you really want to give out or talk about, but certainly I think we can all recognize that there were some great plays in this game and great players in this game. So maybe it's obvious to you, maybe not. Who is, for those watching live, your player of the game for Auburn football? If you want to give a player of the game to the other team as well, you're more than welcome to do that on the winning side. But certainly, make sure you give a shout out as we go through some of these individual stats tonight to talk about a little bit about that. So we're going to walk through a little bit of that and spend some time talking about some people talking about just the initial thoughts here. I think Darius is a little bit overblown here. Absolutely unacceptable performance. I think you and I are going to disagree on that. I think they did a pretty exceptional performance to even be in the game with a high scoring offense like this. Now the defense certainly did leave a little bit to be desired in this game, but certainly a team that is just finding a way to keep it. Everybody brace yourselves for this. Close, but not close enough. We've got an offensive player of the game recognition from someone. There you go. Micah says for Daniels for a heck of a performance. That's from a Bama fan as well. So a little bit of respect being thrown there. Hunter's getting a little bit loose with his super chats. I won't read that first part of it. Durkin is that guy. Hire him immediately. Anyway. All right. Let's keep rolling through some of these things here. And keep talking about that, some of that things tonight. Good offense, defense let down from John there. Certainly that is the case. Darius, we're just going to probably agree to disagree on a lot of that and let you go there, buddy. You're just kind of being belligerent in the chat. can't score in the red zone. He wasn't paying attention at all. All right, individual stats. Let's start there tonight, and then we'll work our way through team stats. If you got any other throughout this, shout outs, moments that you want to call to our attention to break down a little bit, we certainly can talk about that. Boy, with a close game like this, I know, trigger word again, 45-38, you look at the stats to see like they're going to reflect that, and I think we are going to see that when we go through some of the team stats. The individual stats tonight, someone already gave a shout out to Ashton Daniels. Here's his stats for the game. Wow, we have not seen a quarterback do this in quite some time. 31 of 44, 353 yards, 2 total touchdowns, 70% completage, and a passer rating of 152.8. So outstanding day from Ashton Daniels by all accounts. Certainly at the end of the game, you would love to see him be able to finish that out strong. But I think you got to give a tip of the cap to Ashton Daniels before you even talk about some of the other individual performance right here tonight. So from that time that he came in and salvaged the Arkansas win to this last game, the game before this at home where he did not look great whatsoever, to this game, it's just kind of showing you there we're still getting to know what Ashton Daniels could or is capable of. And this is definitely a high watermark for him. So certainly let's give some credit where credit is due to Ashton Daniels for, I feel like, my opinion, an outstanding game tonight. No interceptions. I find very few things to be upset with him about today. So I'm very pleased in Ashton Daniels. So that's your passing today. Rushing attack, very impressive today as well by 2 individuals. One of them we already talked about, Ashton Daniels, telling his full story. 18 carries for 89 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then you had 16, it was his longest run, 4.9 per carry. Jeremiah Cobb, 16 carries on the day, 115 for 7.2, a long of 23. Took him a little while to get going in this game, but he certainly, once he did, he got going. Omar Madison gets the 1 carry for 4 yards, and we tried Eric Singleton on a jet sweep to start the game or something of that semblance. And, so the rushing attack, not really an issue in this game, although it did get off to such a slow start and such a slow, beginning of everything, but they certainly got it going on in there. I would caution everybody as we take a pause in the individual set. A lot of you are saying things like they fixed the offense, things like that. Let's not do those types of things. That's a little bit premature. Certainly, this is a great performance that we need to give kudos to. But I had a feeling this was going to happen if we saw this type of performance, that it was all you or things like that, and that may be actually the case. But what's important is to have a fuller body of work before you make those types of statements, so they actually hold some validity. For one game, the offense was fixed. Let's see if it carries over to Mercer and, more importantly, Alabama, because now you do have to win out to go to a bowl game this year, which would certainly liven the spirits of this program significantly. Sad that Durkin couldn't get the win in that one, but certainly the offense looks to be heading in the right direction. Let's keep going with those stats. We talked about passing, rushing, receiving today. This is very, very nice here. I want you to look at all of this. Eric Singleton is your leading in receptions on the game for 102 yards, 1 touchdown, along with 17. He was targeted 13 times. Cam Coleman, I think, is probably most everybody's player of the game. 10 catches for 143 yards, 1 touchdown, along with 32. He had his acrobatic one on the sideline, the one in the end zone, the 2-point conversion as well. He is probably your obvious candidate for player of the game here. Jeremiah Cobb has 4 catches for 34. Perry Thompson, 4 for 28. Malcolm Simmons, 2 for 46. So only 5 guys get into the mix in receiving, but you had 2 guys over 100 yards, and everybody else had big moments, or at least significant moments in that I think is we should all be very excited about, given what we had to sit through a lot of this season. So, man, individual stats. This is just pleasant to look at. Is there someone on offense that we need to give a shout out to? I just thought of one right now while we're sitting here in the individual discussions. Mason Murphy tonight, who got swapped in at center, I think did pretty decent job. If anybody disagrees with that, certainly let us know. But I think he did an outstanding job being shifted over. We saw the injury to Connor Liu earlier in the year. Then you saw Cale Ellis get a lot of starts, and I think for a guy that's very young, probably still should be in high school, he had a pretty decent game as well. or games as well. But then you see Mason Murphy come in here, and it felt like maybe the guy with a little bit more experience provided a little bit of that extra tonight for Auburn football. So a little bit of a shout out to him for stepping in and giving them a little bit of a spark on the offensive line at times tonight. Hunter says Singleton had a good game, got shadowed by Cam Coleman doing his best Megatron impression. Yeah, isn't that so it's a great thing, and it's also a struggle, right? You've got these individual performances that are outstanding, but then there's someone else that did just as outstanding. So I think you could probably break that down in three ways. Ashton Daniels was outstanding. Eric Singleton was outstanding, overshadowed by Cam Coleman. I think Jeremiah Cobb was outstanding as well, except for just a few times where he was hit behind the line, but he made up for it, 7.2 yards per carry. So how nice is it to go from a game where there is literally nothing, I mean nothing to talk about offensively, to everything to talk about offensively in this game. So absolutely outstanding here. From Robert here on Facebook, much improved game offensively, had so many shirts on Pavia that he didn't have the coverage on their receivers we normally have. So we're about to get to some of that defensive stuff here that we'll talk about in just a little bit after this. T. Davis says, I'm not mad at that game. I just wish we had the same energy at the beginning. And I think they did have some of it, but certainly a few more times, not kicking a field goal, scoring a touchdown. We're talking about a much different game here, a game that doesn't go to overtime, maybe forces Pavia and Vanderbilt to feel a little bit more rushed, a little bit more urgent when they got that lead back in the fourth quarter. Credit to the team, right, for Auburn for not giving up. And when they lost that lead in the fourth quarter, to go back and tie it up and give them an opportunity to do something again. I know we're tired of opportunities. I know we're tired of close. But given the circumstances of this week, I think you've got to be pretty proud of your team for the most part. And if you can't recognize that, I think there's probably something wrong with you rather than the team at this point. It is, I grant you, it is frustrating to continue to see that. False starts and holds certainly were a problem tonight. We'll get to some of that, Robert, in the team stats. So let's keep moving forward here. Let's do individual defensive stats. Anybody want to take a guess who's the start at the top of the tackles list? Again, you guessed it, the X-Man himself, Xavier Atkins, 9 total tackles. He gets half a sack, 1.5 tackles per loss. And then Robert Woodyard's right behind him as well. Jaquez Robinson has also been moving up those stats. 3 guys with 7 tackles, Robert Woodyard, Jaquez Robinson, Caleb Harris, the safety tonight. Kalen Lee with 5, Anquan Fagans or New Boy Fagans with 5. Bryce Dees, nice to see him up there with 4. And then you've got a bunch with 3, 2, and 1 throughout that this evening. Pass breakup goes to Jay Crawford, just looking for some of these others. Robert Woodyard gets a pass breakup. The other half the sack was by Amaris Williams. Pavia is tough to bring down, and so it took 2 guys to get that full sack. So you're no shocker here individually. Xavier Atkins is your guy once again. So that's your offensive and defensive individual team stats. We'll do one more. I need to start doing these in order, and then we'll look at the not the team stats, but we'll look at the team stats. We'll finish up the individual here. On the day, Hudson punting, 3 punts for 126 yards, 42 average, a long of 47, 1 inside the 20. Pretty good there. Alex McPherson is 3 for 3 on the day, 26, 47, and 38. A variety of distances and angles. He knocks them all in. He has made up and then some his misfires a couple of games ago. So very proud of him and how he has bounced back from this game. Okay, let's talk about team stats. And we'll start kind of getting into some of the things maybe y'all want to talk about in the chat too. Team stats tonight. Once again, I said when you look at the score, you hope that the team stats reflect how close the game was going to overtime. Vanderbilt wins on a touchdown. 563 yards for Auburn, 544. How often have we said those words? Auburn and 500 offensive total yards. Absolutely outstanding. You already knew the passing yards, 353. All of them were for Ashton Daniels tonight. They don't beat Vanderbilt on that, but it is very close once again. There is a pretty deep, about a 50-yard almost difference between Auburn and Vanderbilt in Auburn's favor, 210 rushing yards for them in this game, and you could definitely see it with the way Cobb and Ashton Daniels were running the ball. Here's where something, somebody pointed this out early in the game, and we do this a lot in our post-game for basketball shows. We try to find the stat that tells the tale of the tape. You all may have already nailed it in the chat. The penalties. 12 for 91 yards. False starts certainly were a problem. Holds, pass interference were a problem at time. Vanderbilt only has 3. If Auburn had 1, you were going to hear Vanderbilt people complain about that non-hold call, which there was one right after that for Pavia on their drive coming up. They only got 3 on the day, so I don't really want to hear much from them. 3 for 21 yards. The point stands here. Auburn still got areas to improve upon, and it's the penalties have got to clean up. We have got to have under double-digit penalties at the very least, and that's still way too many. Auburn wins on first downs, 34-30. Third downs, both relatively the same. Auburn a little bit less, 6 of 13. Auburn couldn't convert on its 1 fourth down. Vanderbilt could have on one of its 2. Total plays, Auburn had 82-69. Average plays, very comparable. Average yards per completion, a little bit in Vanderbilt's favor. Average yards per rush is in Auburn's favor. Red zone, 5 for 5. So, what's funny, I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't focus on some of the, people that he's not even here anymore. We got rid of him. The guy was over there screaming, just complaining about everything and said, we cannot score in the red zone. 5 for 5 on the day. I mean, I know at the end of the game, that one is, I don't know how that works out with if they count that in overtime or not, but like people you just don't know what you're talking about sometimes. So please be informed before you make ridiculous comments like that. Sorry, I'll get off my soapbox now. Time of possession, very close, but in Vanderbilt's favor a little bit, especially that fourth quarter. They were able to make that clock go away. Only 1 turnover, but it's Vanderbilt's. Auburn got that big one, and that's what you got to do on the road against anybody. Sacks. Auburn had 1, and then Vanderbilt had 2. So the offensive line, outside of the false starts, had an okay game in terms of protecting the quarterback, and that goes more than out the offensive line as well. Tackles for loss are even on both sides of that. So that's your team stats right there. So when you look at these stats, when you look at the score, it all reflects there. Probably your big stat of the game that you're focusing on is the penalties. A few less penalties offensively and defensively, and we're talking about a probably Auburn team winning in regulation. Maybe. A couple other things have to go your way, but certainly that's a big, big one in the favor of Vanderbilt and not in the favor of Auburn. Okay, so I do want to pause right there and acknowledge that there's plenty of things left to talk about. We want to focus a little bit on you guys now. We've tried to get have a smattering of your comments throughout, so keep bringing them to the top of the chat. I'll try to go back and look at a few of them, but if there's something specific that you'd like me to bring up, talk about this game, certainly we will try to spend some more time talking about that. And if you haven't, please do smash the like button and the share button out there. We appreciate those of you that are tuning in tonight. Good crowd, it seems like, across all platforms. And I think that's reflective of the more fun football game, even in a loss for this one. A couple reminders for you, though, of what we got coming up for you. The Auburn Experience, episode 149, is going to be going live tomorrow night at 9 with Austin and myself. We'll be breaking this down, and lots to talk about in basketball as well, and plenty of other things. Big matchup for Auburn in the future. I'm very excited about that one. We got to break that down. If you like these post-game shows, we're going to be doing them all basketball season. Wofford is up next. Join us for that. We'll also have Auburn Family Night on Wednesday at 9 Eastern Time. And then we'll have other things as well go out the week. There'll be no preview and prediction show this Thursday because it's a bye week, but that's pretty much the schedule that you can have tentatively planned if you plan on joining us this week. Let's dive into it. Let's talk about what you guys want to discuss a little bit more and dive into that. AU Chatbot says, did you notice the refs not calling Vanderbilt for holding our defensive line? Yeah, listen, it happens every single game. There's non-calls and bad calls and good calls on both sides of that. It did feel at times that Vanderbilt was getting a little bit away with it where Auburn wasn't. But here's the difference is Auburn has created a narrative for itself that it is a very undisciplined team in that area. And so you can't help the human element of it, that the refs are going to be probably knowing that's going to happen a lot and be like, yeah, they've already shown that they're going to do that, so they're more likely to do that, so they're already kind of locked in. You can say you don't try to do that as a human, as a referee, but that's just kind of built into our nature. The fact of the matter is Auburn can control that to some degree. Don't hold, you don't get a penalty, right? If it's blatantly obvious, somebody's going to get fired, as we found out. So there's that as well. Let's see here. Yeah, Hugh, I had this thought as well. I have to wonder about dividing time away from defense by Durkin, but he did a great job on such short notice. Like, certainly this game, good or bad, can't be the ultimate reflection of, I know some people have said it in jest, but give Durkin or the job or not. However, look at what was put together when he allowed people to just do their roles, you know, shut your hole and know your role type of situation. That's great leadership. And you do wonder if that had a play. It could just be that Vanderbilt finally had our number. Only allowing 24 points per game, or not per game, is the highest you've allowed all of season. The only other teams that do that are undefeated teams. That's going to break down at some point, especially if your team is not up to that level as well. So I don't know that that's necessarily dividing time away is the result of this, more so that there's other turmoil this week, and that could have played more of a factor than that. But I did have that thought, Hugh, so you're not the only one thinking about that right now. This is what we do as fans. We're trying to make rationalizations for all of that. David says, guess Ashton is QB1 now. Any idea what the future is for Deuce? I don't do crystal ball type stuff. There's no sense in worrying about that, David. I'm only focused on, especially in this reaction stream, the game right now. But I will go with your first comment there to say that Ashton Daniels is not QB1 going forward is the most asinine thing to say ever. I mean, like 300 yards. We haven't talked about that with the quarterback all season, I believe. I think Jackson had like a 250-yard game in the first one, maybe, or something before that. But he's QB1 going forward. I would only focus on that right now. The rest of that will take care of itself. Hunter says, I was under the impression that throwing over the middle, throwing screen, throwing slants, and constantly targeting Cam Coleman was illegal. Yeah, I would caution you as fans to always remember that these things seem so simple on the TV or in the stands, and you don't have all the information, but certainly there seemed a little bit more variety today. I think really it comes down to Jackson, we got lots of that. Ashton Daniels has a little bit of poison moxie because he's been around a lot longer. And I hope that we get to see him around a lot longer because I liked what I saw today against a challenging Vanderbilt team. So we'll see. That was some nice variety to see in this game today. Let's see here. John with a funny one. I'm starting to think the Auburn almost is a more fitting mascot. The Auburn close would be the more fitting mascot in this one, I think, here. But anyway, yeah, I don't think schemes were necessarily changed as much as people think. I just want to caution you as fans, our initial reactions to things is try to seek our biases that are already built into us, and we think we've got it figured out, and I promise you don't. But let's wait. Mercer is not going to be a good reflection because you should win that game, although Mercer is a very challenging team if you've seen how they've done this season from what I understand. So don't write them off, but you should be able to take care of them at home. And that's 2 weeks away. So we'll see how all that shakes out. I feel like I've said that a bunch tonight. Let's see here. Even with less touches, I wonder how much less he was than last game, Hunter. I don't feel like it was too many less. Last game was one of his more attempted games. Combat next game, his breakout has been awesome to watch. Been a bright spot all year. Certainly, I'm a big fan of Damari and what I thought his potential was going to be. We all saw it in the first game. But when opportunities present themselves for others, when either you vacate it by injury, by choice, whatever, Jeremiah has stepped up into that role and showed that he has been ready. And so it's really nice. There's a lot of positive things that you can take from these frustrating almost wins all season long. But, yeah, I mean, Cobb has been definitely a bright spot in that. What else? Anything else that we haven't talked about, discussed, whether it's an individual thing, a team thing tonight? We have walked all the way through the individual stats, offense, defense, special teams, the team stats as well. And I think we've all agreed that penalties is the glaring bad one in this one. This was from earlier. Did I say 34 first downs? Let me confirm that for you. 34 first downs. It was outstanding, wasn't it? What else we got here? This is from Weakest Link. What a game. Sucks to see them lose another close one, but wow, that offense was as good as I've seen in years. I think we're all probably a little bit biased that it's as good as it's seen in years. There's been some good ones like it, but not a lot this season. I think this is probably the most yards we've had all season, if I'm not mistaken. Hunter did a little research for us. Cobb's 5th game over 100 yards. Impressive considering 2 games he wasn't starting. Some impressive things to bring in there. So this is going to be a big narrative the next 2 weeks. Would you start a different quarterback at Mercer to save Ashton's red shirt? Number one, does he want to play next year? I would assume so. Why wouldn't you? But you don't know if Auburn's, when they have a new head coach, are they going to bring in a different quarterback? But you saw a lot of impressive things from him in this game. So do you just roll with him? I mean, it's hard to argue after one game, right? But that's why we take a fuller body of work in that. So if what he's referring to is if you want to do that, he can have another year of eligibility, but he can't play for one. He has 2 games left. He can only play in one of them. So that's something for Coach Durkin to make a decision on with the decision of Ashton Daniels. I would imagine he would say yes, but you have to balance that of, do you want to continue to build up that repetition and play for this bowl game this season? Then you probably need him in there. Decisions that we don't have to make, others do, which are tough. Having 2 receivers over 100 and having a 100-yard rusher, I bet that hasn't been done by us in 20 years. I bet 20 years is a little bit drastic of an assumption, but I would say in the last 10 years, you're probably close to that. There's going to be one weird game where, like, Anthony Schwartz had 4 catches for 100 yards because he, caught one just out in the flats and ran it because he was so fast. And then Seth Williams went for 100 yards. And then you probably had a running back who could do something like that. But you're maybe about half of that time I might go with you on that one. Hunter says you have to consider that Durkin is coaching for the head coaching job. Duh. I mean, why wouldn't you, right? I mean, I don't see a reason why he wouldn't want to do that. And I think it's very professional by him to not even, when asked about it earlier, not even speak on it. I know a lot of you would be excited to see Deuce in the game. My assumption is that you'll probably see that he's a freshman quarterback and there'll be a lot of exciting things from him, but he will be a freshman quarterback. Some people still are struggling to recognize that, but it doesn't take away from the excitement of seeing somebody new, right? So that would be something right there. Okay. Have we covered it all? I think we might have. Let's round out the show right there. We had a pretty good post-game reaction show here. Once again, your final score for Auburn versus Vanderbilt. Sadly, 45-38 in overtime. The Commodores and Pavia get the Tigers one last time with Pavia at the helm. Very sad. The big stat for me in this game, the one that tells the tale of the tape, is the penalties. 13 penalties for, I think, 91 yards. Can't have that happen. That will gut you anytime, even if it's at home. This one on the road can't have that happen at all. And I think your player of the game, although there are multiple good performances in this, has got to be Cam Coleman, over 100 yards, circus catch on the sideline, circus catch in the end zone, 2-point conversion as well. He just went to work. Lots to take away that is good, lots to take away that is frustrating. This is the season, whether you want to hear this word or not, of Auburn being so close and yet can't just get the job done. However, we'll continue to wait and see what they can do over the next 2 weeks during a bye week, prepare for the final 2 games, and hopefully have a chance to play for bowl eligibility versus Alabama if you take care of Mercer. Thank you for joining us tonight. We hope to see you around more often. Lots of content this week. Thank you for being part of our little family. within the Auburn family. Before we go, I want to remind you that the Auburn Creed asks you to do these things: to do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with God. We ask you to do the same. War Eagle.